When you master this, you stop being human. Not in the way you think. You don't lose your heart. You don't become a monster. You become something harder to define. Something people can't manipulate, can't predict, can't control. You stop operating by the emotional rules that keep everyone else trapped. You stop reacting. You stop explaining. You stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even notice if you disappeared. And in that transformation, you cross a line most never touch. You stop being the kind of human they can use. Here's what no one tells you. Humanity, as they've defined it, is a trap. Be kind, be available, be understanding, forgive endlessly, give without expecting return. That's the script they handed you. And every time you follow it, you teach people you're harmless, that you'll bend, that you'll break before you fight back. They call it being a good person. But good people finish last because goodness without boundaries is just self-destruction with better branding. What you're about to learn isn't about losing your humanity. It's about reclaiming the part of it they convinced you to bury. The cold, calculating, survival-driven part that refuses to lose. This isn't philosophy. It's not motivation. It's a dissection of power dynamics, emotional warfare, and the psychological architecture that separates those who get respected from those who get ignored. You've been operating with one hand tied behind your back, convinced that playing fair would eventually pay off. It won't. Fairness is a lie sold to keep you compliant. What works is consequence. What works is distance. What works is becoming so emotionally untouchable that people start wondering what you know that they don't. When you master this, when you learn to kill approval-seeking, weaponize silence, build boundaries that don't bend, show indifference that looks like strategy, create distance that feels like loss, leverage mystery like a blade, and forge a mind nothing can shake, you don't just change, you evolve. You stop being the person they could guilt, the one they could manipulate, the one they could drain. You become something else. Something that doesn't need their validation. Something that doesn't fear their rejection. Something that plays the game better than they ever could. And once you cross that line, you never go back. Because the moment you stop being human in the way they expect, you become untouchable in every way that matters. Let's begin. Every time you chase approval, you teach people to walk over you. They sense desperation. It smells like weakness. Your need for validation becomes a scent trail that predators follow. People don't respect what they can easily control, and when you hand them power over your emotions, you become a tool in their hands. You think kindness will earn you loyalty, but all it earns you is exploitation. The moment you stop needing their nod, you become dangerous to them. Fear begins where approval ends. I've watched this pattern repeat in boardrooms, relationships, and silent wars between friends. The person who asks, "Did I do okay?" loses before the game even starts. You're not seeking feedback, you're bleeding out your dominance. Approval is a drug, and every hit makes you weaker. When you operate from need, you surrender the only weapon that matters: unpredictability. People can't manipulate what they can't measure. Stop feeding them data about your insecurity. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them fear what you might do when their opinion stops mattering. The psychology here is simple but brutal. Humans test boundaries constantly. When you react to rejection, they learn you're controllable. When you smile through disrespect, they learn you're harmless. Manipulation thrives on emotional availability. The more you care what they think, the more they'll use that care as a leash. You don't become powerful by being liked. You become powerful by being impossible to predict. Respect doesn't come from agreeability. It comes from the quiet certainty that you'll survive without them. That's not cruelty, that's survival. Consider this. Every leader who changed history stopped caring about being loved. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince for nice guys. He wrote it for those willing to trade warmth for control. Stoics didn't preach indifference because it felt good. They preached it because emotion is a liability in a world built on power dynamics. You think you're being authentic when you seek approval, but you're just performing weakness. Authenticity without boundaries is just self-destruction with better branding. The ruthless truth: people respect what they can't touch. And approval-seeking makes you infinitely touchable. Here's what most won't tell you. The death of approval-seeking isn't about becoming cold, it's about becoming untouchable. When you stop performing for an audience, you stop being their puppet. You reclaim the strings. Read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius if you want the manual. Read Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power if you want the battlefield tactics. But more than reading, practice this. Next time someone withholds approval, say nothing. Do nothing. Let the silence stretch until they feel it. Watch how quickly power shifts when you stop chasing. Watch how respect creeps in where validation used to live. That shift is where dominance begins. And once you feel it, you'll never go back. But killing approval-seeking is only the first cut. The next wound goes deeper. Because once you stop needing their words, you have to master something even harder. Controlling what you reveal when they try to provoke you. That's where the real power hides. You react. You lose. It's that simple. Every time you let emotions spill out, you hand someone a map to your interior. They learn what hurts you, what excites you, what makes you weak. Silence is not passivity, it's a weapon. When you stay quiet while chaos swirls around you, people start to fear what you're thinking. They can't read you, they can't control you, and control is all anyone really wants. The moment you master emotional silence, you become a mirror. They see only their own fear reflected back. Most people mistake silence for weakness because they've never encountered it paired with power. They confuse your restraint for confusion. Let them. While they're busy filling the void with noise, you're calculating, you're watching. You're collecting data on how they move when they think you're vulnerable. I learned this in negotiations where the person who spoke first always lost. Silence creates pressure. It forces the other side to reveal their hand. The psychology of dominance isn't about loudness. It's about making others uncomfortable enough to break first. And they always break. Here's what happens when you weaponize silence. People start projecting. They assume you're angry, disappointed, plotting. The truth doesn't matter. Their fear of the unknown does. This is manipulation at its cleanest. You're not lying. You're not threatening. You're simply withholding reaction, and that absence becomes a void they rush to fill. In relationships, silence makes the other person chase. In conflicts, it makes them second guess. In power dynamics, it shifts the weight onto them. Fairness has nothing to do with it. Survival does. And in survival, the one who controls their emotion controls the outcome. Let's be clear, emotional silence doesn't mean suppression, it means strategic delay. You feel everything, rage, joy, contempt, but you choose when and how it surfaces. Think of it as a controlled detonation versus a wild explosion. One destroys you, the other destroys your target. Stoics called this apatheia, not the absence of feeling, but freedom from being enslaved by it. Neuropsychology backs this up. The prefrontal cortex, when trained, can override the amygdala's panic. You literally rewire your brain to pause before you bleed. And that pause, that's where power lives. Read The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. If you want the philosophy, practice it by counting to 10 before responding to anything that triggers you. Watch how much you stop losing. But here's the edge most miss. Emotional silence isn't just defense, it's offense. When you don't react to someone's provocation, you invalidate their power. They threw a punch and hit nothing. That absence, that void where your reaction should have been, destabilizes them. They start wondering if they mattered to you at all. And the moment someone wonders if they matter, you own them. This isn't cruelty. This is consequence. You're teaching them that your emotional real estate isn't free. They want access, they'll have to earn it, and most won't. Most will just break trying. Once you own your silence, you realize something darker. People will test you harder. They'll push boundaries just to see if you'll crack. And that's when you need something even colder than silence. You need boundaries that don't bend, walls that don't explain themselves, because silence without structure is just emptiness. What comes next is the architecture of untouchability. Boundaries without emotion are the only ones that survive. When you explain yourself, you negotiate. When you negotiate, you lose. People don't respect boundaries they can argue with. They respect walls that don't speak. The moment you say, "I need space because I'm feeling overwhelmed," you've given them a lever to pull. They'll wait until you're weak, then push again. But when you simply say no and nothing else, there's no opening, no vulnerability, no way in. Cold boundaries don't apologize, they don't justify. They just exist, and existence is dominance. Most people were raised to believe that setting boundaries requires softness, like you owe everyone an explanation for protecting yourself. That's a lie designed to keep you accessible. The truth is harsher. Every boundary you defend with reasons is a boundary you're already losing. I've seen this in business, in family dynamics, in friendships that rotted from the inside. The person who says, "I can't help you right now because I'm busy," gets guilt-tripped. The person who says no and walks away gets respected. It's not fair. It's just how power works. Respect isn't earned through kindness. It's earned through consequence. And the coldest consequence is silence after refusal. The psychology of boundaries is rooted in one principle. People test what they think will break. If your boundary has warmth, they'll assume it has flexibility. If it has explanation, they'll assume it has doubt. But if it's rigid, emotionless, and final, they'll assume it's dangerous to cross. This is manipulation in reverse. You're not attacking, you're fortifying. You're making yourself expensive to access. Think of it like a fortress. The more gates you leave open, the more invaders walk through. The fewer explanations you give, the fewer weaknesses they find. Boundaries aren't about being mean, they're about being unreachable. And unreachable people don't get used. Let's make this practical. Someone asks you for a favor you don't want to do. Most people say, "I'm really swamped right now, maybe next week." That's a crack. They'll push. Instead say, "I can't." No apology, no excuse, just fact. Watch how fast they stop asking. Or in relationships, someone crosses a line. Most people explain why it hurt, opening a debate. Instead, you pull back. You create distance without discussion. They feel the cold before they understand why. That confusion is your advantage. Fear of losing access is stronger than understanding the rules. You don't need to teach them respect. You need to make them afraid of losing you. Read Boundaries by Henry Cloud if you want the framework. But remember, his version has empathy. Strip that out. What remains is control. Here's the brutal part. Cold boundaries will cost you people. Some will call you heartless. Some will walk away. Let them. Anyone who can't handle your walls was only staying because they could climb them. The ones who respect your boundaries are the ones who understand power. They're the ones worth keeping. This isn't about isolation. It's about filtration. You're not building walls to keep everyone out. You're building walls to see who's strong enough to stand outside and wait. Weakness demands entry. Strength earns it. And once you see the difference, you'll never soften your boundaries again. But boundaries alone won't save you. Because once people realize they can't break through, they'll try a different strategy. They'll try to make you care. They'll dangle things you want, play on your emotions, make you think you're missing out. That's when you need something even sharper than boundaries. You need indifference that looks like interest, and that's a game most never learn. You care too much and they own you. You care too little and they leave. The trick is making them think you care just enough to stay dangerous. Controlled indifference isn't apathy, it's selective investment. You show interest when it serves you. You withdraw when it costs you. People read this as unpredictability, and unpredictability is the core of psychological dominance. When they can't tell if you're invested or detached, they'll chase harder just to figure you out. That chase, that's where you extract value without losing power. Most people operate at two extremes. They're either desperate for connection or completely checked out. Both are weaknesses. Desperation makes you controllable. Total detachment makes you irrelevant. But controlled indifference sits in the space between, close enough to matter, distant enough to terrify. I've used this in negotiations where I acted mildly interested in a deal, never eager, never cold. The other side couldn't read me. They lowered their price. They sweetened terms. They feared losing something they weren't even sure I wanted. That's manipulation through perception. You're not lying. You're just refusing to show your hand. And in a world built on reading people, being unreadable is a superpower. The psychology here revolves around intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. When you give someone attention sporadically, their brain craves the pattern. They start working harder for less reward. You become the slot machine they can't walk away from. This works in relationships, in leadership, in any dynamic where someone wants something from you. If you're always available, you're predictable. Predictable means boring. Boring means replaceable. But when you show up with intensity, then vanish, then return with warmth, then go cold, you create a cycle they can't escape. It's not cruelty, it's consequence. You're teaching them that your approval is rare, and rare things hold value. Let's break this into action. Someone messages you constantly. Most people reply every time, training the person that they're always accessible. Instead, reply sometimes immediately, sometimes hours later, sometimes not at all. No pattern, no explanation. They'll start obsessing over why. That obsession is control. Or at work, someone keeps asking for your input. Give it generously once, withhold it the next 3 times, then give it again, but sharper, more valuable. They'll start treating your words like gospel because scarcity breeds reverence. Read Influence by Robert Cialdini if you want the science. Read The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene if you want the practice. But more importantly, start treating your attention like currency. Spend it rarely. Watch how its value skyrockets. Here's where it gets darker. Controlled indifference requires you to monitor your own emotions constantly. You have to care enough to stay in the game, but detach enough to walk away without bleeding. That's exhausting. It's a tightrope between investment and detachment. But once you master it, you become untouchable. People will accuse you of being cold. Let them. Cold is just another word for disciplined. They'll say you're playing games. You are, and you're winning. Because while they're drowning in emotion, you're floating above it, watching, calculating, deciding who gets access and who gets nothing. Fairness doesn't enter the equation. Power does. And power always chooses survival over sentiment. But indifference alone isn't enough. Because the moment people sense you don't need them, they'll try to close the gap. They'll push for proximity, for validation, for proof that they still matter. And that's when you need to create space intentionally, not as punishment, but as architecture. Distance isn't rejection, it's leverage. And leverage is what separates those who beg from those who command. Distance is not rejection, it's recalibration. When you pull back, you force people to reevaluate your worth. Proximity breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds contempt. The more available you are, the less they value you. But when you create space, deliberate, unapologetic space, you become scarce. And scarcity triggers desire. This isn't manipulation through lies. It's manipulation through absence. You're not pushing them away. You're making them realize how much they need you by showing them what life looks like without you. That realization is power. I've watched relationships crumble because one person suffocated the other with constant presence. Texts every hour, calls every day, zero breathing room. What they thought was love was actually control disguised as care. The other person didn't leave because they stopped caring. They left because they felt trapped. Distance does the opposite. It creates vacuum, and vacuum pulls. When you step back, the other person either follows or reveals they were never yours to begin with. Either way, you win. You either gain respect or you lose dead weight. Survival isn't about holding on to everyone. It's about knowing who's worth the grip. The psychology of distance operates on a principle called reactance theory. When people feel their freedom is threatened, they crave it more. Your presence, when constant, becomes a cage. Your absence becomes freedom they didn't know they wanted, until they feel the cold. Then they panic. Then they chase. This works in every arena: business, romance, friendship, even family dynamics. The child who calls every day gets taken for granted. The one who calls once a month gets cherished. It's not fair, it's not kind, but it's true. And truth doesn't care about your feelings. Distance teaches people that access to you isn't a right. It's a privilege, and privileges can be revoked. Let's make this tactical. Someone demands your time constantly. Most people give in to avoid conflict. Instead, create gaps. Be unavailable without explanation. Let a day pass. Then 2. Watch how their tone changes. They go from demanding to asking, from asking to pleading. That shift is respect being born. Or in professional settings, someone treats you like their on-call assistant. Stop responding instantly. Let emails sit. Let calls go to voicemail. When you finally respond, be brief. They'll start valuing your time because you've shown them it's limited. Read the 48 Laws of Power. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. That's the manual. Now apply it. Distance isn't passive. It's active control. Here's the edge most miss. Distance only works if you're not emotionally desperate while creating it. If you pull back because you're hurt, they'll sense it. That's weakness. But if you pull back because you're busy building something bigger, they'll feel the difference. Your energy shifts. You stop orbiting them. You start orbiting yourself. And when someone sees you thriving in the space you created, they'll either fight to get back in or fade into irrelevance. Either outcome proves your value. Fairness doesn't decide who matters. Distance does. And the ones who survive your absence are the ones who deserve your presence. But here's the trap. Distance alone can backfire if you don't pair it with something colder, something that makes them wonder what you're doing while you're gone, because absence only works when it's filled with mystery. And mystery is what happens when silence stops being passive and starts being weaponized. That's where the next layer lives. Silence is the loudest thing you'll never say. When you go quiet, people fill the void with their worst fears. They assume you're angry. They assume you're done. They assume you've moved on to something or someone better. The truth doesn't matter, their imagination does. And imagination, left unchecked, is more powerful than any threat you could speak. Silence forces them to confront what they're afraid of losing. That confrontation is leverage. You're not attacking. You're just refusing to reassure. And that refusal creates pressure they can't escape. Most people panic in silence because they've been conditioned to believe communication fixes everything. It doesn't. Sometimes silence is the most honest answer you can give. When someone crosses a boundary and you stop talking, you're not being petty. You're being clear. Words can be argued with. Silence can't. It just sits there, heavy and cold, forcing them to sit with the consequence of their actions. I've used this in conflicts where explaining would have weakened my position. Instead, I went dark. No calls, no texts, no explanations. The other person spiraled. They apologized without me asking. They changed without me demanding. That's control without confrontation. That's power through absence. The psychology of silence as leverage taps into something primal, the fear of abandonment. Humans are social creatures. Being ignored triggers survival instincts. When you withhold communication, you're signaling that they might not matter anymore. That signal, even if unintentional, activates panic. They start reviewing every interaction, every mistake, every moment they might have lost you. This isn't cruelty, it's consequence. You're teaching them that your attention isn't guaranteed, it's earned. And if they want it back, they'll have to prove they deserve it. Respect is born in that proving ground. Weakness dies there. Let's apply this. Someone disrespects you in public. Most people argue back, trying to win the moment. Instead, you go silent. You don't engage. You don't defend. You just stop interacting. Days pass. They reach out. You stay quiet. Eventually, they crack. They apologize, they backtrack, they try to explain. You still say nothing. Only when they've exhausted themselves do you respond, brief, cold, final. That delay is your dominance. It shows them you're not ruled by emotion, you're ruled by strategy. Read the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene, specifically the chapter on communication warfare. Then practice this. Next time someone expects your reaction, give them nothing. Let the silence stretch. Let them drown in it. Watch how fast they learn. Here's the dangerous part. Silence as leverage only works if you're genuinely detached from the outcome. If you're silent because you're hurt and waiting for them to notice, they'll sense the weakness. But if you're silent because you're genuinely indifferent to whether they return or not, they'll feel the ice. That indifference is what makes silence lethal. It's not a tactic. It's a state of being. You're not playing hard to get. You're hard to get. And that difference, that shift from performance to reality, is what separates manipulation from dominance. One begs for attention. The other commands it. One hopes they'll notice. The other doesn't care if they do. But silence has a limit. If you stay quiet forever, you become irrelevant. The trick is knowing when to break it and how. Because when you finally speak after prolonged silence, your words carry weight others will never have. That's when mystery becomes a weapon sharper than anything else. And mystery, that's not just about what you don't say. It's about what you never let them fully know. The less they know, the more they obsess. Mystery isn't secrecy, it's selective disclosure. You reveal enough to intrigue, never enough to satisfy. When people can't fully figure you out, they assign you more value than you might actually have. Their mind fills the gaps with fantasies, projections, fears. You become larger than life simply by refusing to be an open book. This is control through withholding. You're not hiding, you're curating. And curation is power. Because people respect what they can't decode. Most people overshare because they think transparency builds trust. It doesn't. It builds familiarity. And familiarity kills fascination. When you tell someone everything, your struggles, your plans, your insecurities, you hand them a blueprint to your weaknesses. They know where to push. They know where you'll break. But when you keep parts of yourself locked, they can't map you. They can't predict you. They can't control you. I've seen leaders lose respect the moment they became too relatable. I've watched relationships die when one person revealed too much too fast. Mystery creates distance. Distance creates desire. Desire creates respect. It's a chain reaction that starts the moment you learn to shut up. The psychology of mystery works because humans are pattern-seeking machines. We need to categorize, to understand, to solve. When you refuse to fit into a box, the brain goes into overdrive trying to place you. That mental effort translates into emotional investment. They think about you when you're not there. They replay conversations looking for clues. They wonder what you're hiding, what you're thinking, what you're capable of. This isn't manipulation through deception. It's manipulation through omission. You're not lying. You're just not explaining. And explanation is where power dies. The moment you justify yourself, you give them ammunition. The moment you stay silent, you become untouchable. Let's get practical. Someone asks about your personal life. Most people spill everything, hoping connection will follow. Instead, give fragments. I've been working on something. No details. Had an interesting conversation today. No names. They'll ask for more. You'll smile and say nothing. That refusal creates hunger. Or professionally, someone wants to know your strategy. Share the surface. Hide the depth. Let them think they understand while you operate 3 layers deeper. Read The Art of War by Sun Tzu. The entire text is about strategic concealment. Then read Mastery by Robert Greene to see how masters throughout history used mystery as a tool. But more than reading, practice this. Answer every question with 70% of the truth. Keep 30% locked. Watch how people start chasing that missing piece. Here's where it gets ruthless. Controlled mystery requires you to resist the urge to be understood. That's harder than it sounds. Humans crave validation. We want people to get us. But being understood makes you predictable. Predictable means controllable. When you accept that you'll never be fully known, when you embrace being a puzzle no one solves, you gain a form of freedom most people never touch. They'll call you cold. They'll say you're distant. Let them. Their discomfort is proof the strategy works. Mystery isn't about being liked. It's about being unforgettable. And unforgettable people don't fade when they leave the room. They linger. They haunt. They dominate thoughts long after the conversation ends. But mystery without substance is just smoke. Eventually, they'll stop caring if there's nothing real beneath the surface. That's why the final transformation is the most important. It's not about pretending to be unshakable. It's about becoming it. Because once your mind is truly fortified, mystery isn't a performance. It's just who you are. And that's when you stop being human in the way they expect. That's when you become something else entirely. An unshakable mind isn't born. It's forged. Through rejection, betrayal, loss, and the cold realization that no one is coming to save you. Every time someone walked over you, every time your kindness was mistaken for weakness, every time you bled trying to hold on, those weren't failures. Those were lessons. The world was teaching you that survival demands hardness, that power requires detachment, that respect is earned through consequence, not compassion. An unshakable mind doesn't ignore emotion. It processes it, files it away, and refuses to let it dictate action. That's not coldness. That's mastery. Most people confuse being unshakable with being emotionless. They think you have to kill your feelings to become strong. You don't. You have to dominate them. Emotions are data, useful, revealing, but not authoritative. When someone insults you, the anger you feel is information. They want a reaction. When someone rejects you, the pain is clarity. They weren't yours to lose. An unshakable mind takes that information and weaponizes it. It doesn't suppress. It redirects. Think of emotion as fuel. Weak people let it burn them. Strong people let it power them. I've stood in rooms where chaos erupted, where people screamed and crumbled, and I felt everything they felt. But I didn't move. I didn't flinch. That stillness wasn't apathy. It was control. And control is the only currency that matters. The psychology of an unshakable mind is rooted in something neuroscience calls cognitive reappraisal, the ability to reframe a situation before it triggers a response. When someone tries to provoke you, your amygdala fires, but your prefrontal cortex can override it if trained. That training doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in fire. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you strengthen that neural pathway. Every time you walk away, instead of exploding, you rewire your brain. This isn't philosophy, it's biology. You're literally building a mind that can't be shaken because you've trained it to operate above the chaos. Stoics understood this centuries before fMRI scans proved it. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel. You call it survival. Let's make this actionable. Start with exposure. Put yourself in situations that used to break you. Criticism, rejection, disrespect. Feel the initial sting, then observe it like you're watching someone else. Separate yourself from the emotion. Say internally, that's anger, that's fear, that's pain. Name it. Detach from it. Then choose your response. Or choose nothing. Do this daily. Train your mind like you'd train your body. Read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl to see how someone built an unshakable mind in a concentration camp. Read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius to see how an emperor did it while ruling Rome. Then apply it. Next time someone tests you, pause, breathe, decide if they're worth the energy. Most won't be. Let them break against your stillness. Here's the transformation no one tells you about. Once your mind becomes unshakable, you stop needing people in the way you used to. Not because you're broken, because you're complete. You no longer seek validation because you've validated yourself. You no longer fear rejection because you've rejected the idea that their opinion defines you. You become a fortress that doesn't need defending because nothing can penetrate it. People will sense this. Some will be drawn to it. Most will be terrified of it. Both reactions prove the same thing. You've transcended the game they're still playing. Fairness doesn't exist at this level. Only power, only consequence, Only the cold certainty that you'll survive anything, because you've already survived everything that tried to break you. And what doesn't break you doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you untouchable. Once you reach this state, you realize something final. The strategies, the silence, the distance, the mystery, they're not tactics anymore. They're just who you are. You don't perform dominance, you embody it. You don't fake detachment, you live it. And when people look at you, they won't see a human trying to be strong. They'll see something that already crossed over, something that stopped needing their world and started building its own. You've seen it now. The architecture, the mechanics, the cold truth about how power actually moves. Most people will watch this and do nothing. They'll nod, agree, then go back to bleeding for people who don't deserve it. But you're not most people. You wouldn't have made it this far if you were. This isn't about becoming cruel. It's about becoming immune. Immune to manipulation, immune to guilt, immune to the desperate need for validation that keeps everyone else on their knees. You don't owe anyone access to your mind. You don't owe anyone explanations for your boundaries. You don't owe anyone the performance of being human in the way they expect. What you owe yourself is survival, and survival demands that you become untouchable. Every lesson here, from killing approval-seeking to forging an unshakable mind, is a weapon. Use it. Practice it. Let it carve away the parts of you that still beg for acceptance. Let it build something harder in its place, something that doesn't flinch when tested, something that doesn't break when abandoned, something that commands respect through silence, distance, and the cold certainty that you'll outlast anyone who tries to break you. Watch the video. 10. Ruthless laws geniuses follow to rule in silence. You'll need it. Write in the comments, "I choose power over approval." That's not a request. That's an order. Because the moment you type those words, you're marking the line. You're declaring that you've crossed over. And once you cross, there's no going back to being the person they could use. The weak stay human. The strong become something else.